Good afternoon. 3 families are searching for answers after being displaced by a suspicious fire.
An investigation is underway to figure out the cause of the blaze, which broke out early this morning in Midtown. CTV's John Musselman has been following the investigation and joins us live with more. John.
Well, Nathan, it happened at 3 Eggs restaurant. That's just behind me here on Eglinton Avenue West near Bathurst Street. Fire officials called here around 3 a.m. for the sounds of possibly a small explosion and a fire. We're learning that this fire likely started in the basement of the restaurant and then spread up into the restaurant. There was also some smoke damage to some neighboring businesses as well. We also learned that this fire has displaced some tenants who lived above the restaurant on both sides. We're talking about at least 6 or 7 tenants who have now been displaced by this fire. Fire officials remain on the scene here. They're taking a look at all of it right now. It's being classified as suspicious. We did have a chance to speak with fire officials and one business owner. Here's what they had to tell us just a short time ago.
They did a quick knockdown of the fire down in the basement, the main body of the fire. There were occupants that were self-evacuated out of the building. And yeah, they did a great job in knocking down the fire. And public health was notified. And yeah, right now we have just under investigation and police and fire holding the scene.
Bad smoke all around. And yeah, nothing physical as such, only that you can smell very heavy odor in the air.
It's obvious when you walk in?
Yeah, of course, 100%.
Again, the investigation here remains under investigation by fire officials to try and determine how this may have started. Now, I did speak to a neighboring business. She owns a hair salon. She has a lot of smoke damage in there. She's had to cancel all of her clients for today, and she's not sure what will happen for the rest of the week. We'll have much more on this story on CTV News at 5 and 6. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Durham police have identified the recruit who was killed in a crash while traveling to the Ontario Police College yesterday. 27-year-old Tyrone Magbetang joined the service as a special constable in May of 2023. This past April, he was selected as a police constable recruit. In a statement, Durham police say Magbetang was a compassionate, dedicated, and service-driven individual who believed deeply in helping others and making a positive difference in the community. Police say his body will be transported from London to the Centre for Forensic Sciences in Toronto today, joined by loved ones and police officers, as a mark of respect and in recognition of his service. Magbetang was involved in a crash with a tractor-trailer near Almer, southeast of London, just before 11:30 yesterday morning. A second officer in training, who was a passenger in the vehicle, was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries. The truck driver was not injured, and the crash is still under investigation.
Peel police are searching for suspects following a shooting in Brampton last night. Officers called to the area of Victoria Crescent and Arena Road shortly before 9:30. They found a man in his 30s suffering from a gunshot wound. He was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police have not provided a description of possible suspects. They say this investigation is ongoing.
A motorcycle rider was sent to hospital following a crash in Brampton. It happened near Beauvais Drive and Mississauga Road just before 9 last night. Police say the motorcycle collided with another vehicle in the area. The rider was taken to hospital with serious injuries. The cause of the crash is under investigation. Meanwhile, a man and woman were taken to hospital after being struck by a vehicle in Vaughan last night. It happened shortly before 7:30 near Rutherford Road and Valmar Drive. The man was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries, while the woman is in serious but stable condition. The driver involved remain at the scene. The circumstances leading up to the pedestrian being struck remain under investigation.
2 people from southwestern Ontario are facing charges in connection with an alleged fraud scheme targeting international students. The Canada Border Services Agency began investigating after getting a tip from Lambton College in Sarnia in February of last year. Police allege the suspects took money from international students with the promise of paying their tuition, but did not actually enroll them and instead provided them with forged enrollment documents. The CBSA says victims were defrauded of about $126,000. One of the accused is also believed to have fled the country.
Still to come, the U.S. and Iran have resumed strikes in the Middle East as President Donald Trump says the ceasefire agreement between the two countries is over. We'll have more on the renewed violence a little later in the newscast. But first, striking community, health and social services workers from across Ontario are rallying downtown this morning.
They're calling on the Ford government to provide more funding and bring an end to the province-wide strike. CTV's Beth Macdonell spoke with those who are attending the rally. She joins us live now with more. Beth.
Yeah, Michelle, I'm at a march and rally on the move right now that's going from the CN Tower to the Treasury Board offices. This strike is entering its 7th week. It affects 4,000 workers across the province at 23 agencies. These are people who work with disabilities, people living with mental health, people who are really struggling and some of the most vulnerable in our community. I'm with the president of OPSEU now, JP Hornick. Tell me, what does it feel like to be going for this long on strike?
I mean, what's amazing about this group of workers, and there are 4,000 of them across the province with more to come, is that their morale has stayed up absolutely throughout the entire 7-week process. If anything, they're only getting stronger. What we've learned is that the funding that the government has released is not enough. The Financial Accountability Office says these sectors are $1.5 billion short. And so these workers are taking a stand, not just for themselves and the wages they had stolen, but for funding for the services all Ontarians rely on, particularly the most vulnerable.
What are the key issues? What's preventing this from moving forward?
What seems to be preventing this from moving forward is that this government has chosen to spend more money on, fictitious tunnels under the 401 or convention centers in the middle of the lake, rather than the relatively cheap, or a private plane, rather than the relatively cheap investment it would take of about $80 million a year targeted towards the front lines to make sure these services are funded and these folks can actually provide what vulnerable Ontarians need.
Everyone I spoke to today so far is telling me they miss their clients. They want to be back at work. They also want to be back at the table. What have you done to make that happen?
Absolutely, and the clients miss us, and the families and communities have been incredibly supportive. Just yesterday, we issued a letter to the government. Doug Ford said he wanted the employers and the union back at the table, so we sent letters to all the employers, to the government, inviting them to a table with us so that we can actually talk about what's needed to end this strike and make sure that these services are funded appropriately.
Thank you very much. And Michelle and Nathan, shortly, a few minutes ago, I heard from the government on this, saying that in response, they are making historic investments, including nearly $4 billion this year, an increase of $1.6 billion since the Ford government took office in 2018 to get access to people for these services that they need, and that the collective bargaining matter between the employer and the union, they expect every service provider to have strong contingency plans to protect residents and ensure their care is not disrupted. So here we are at the rally. You can see that people are winding their way up the stairs along the Rogers Centre here to Front Street, where they're going to continue their rally on Front Street in front of the Treasury Board offices. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it. Meantime, Ontario's official opposition is marking 1,000 days since the start of the RCMP's criminal investigation into the Greenbelt scandal.
The probe began in October of 2023, following Premier Doug Ford's decision to remove 15 parcels of land from the protected area for housing development. The move was later reversed. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with more details on this. Siobhan.
Well, this investigation has been going on for close to 1,000 days now, but it's been something of a black box to the public anyway. We did hear from the RCMP this morning, who say it's continuing, that they can't share anything so as not to compromise the investigation. But today at Queen's Park, we saw the opposition leader, Marit Stiles, roll out a birthday cake to mark the occasion, 1,000 days of this investigation. She says that people are looking for answers into what happened behind closed doors. Back in the summer of 2023 especially, we had a series of media reports and then reports from the Auditor General and the Integrity Commissioner raising questions about who knew exactly when this land was going to come out of the Greenbelt and whether friends of the government might have been able to profit. Here's more of what we had to say from Marit Stiles and the interim Liberal leader.
Ontarians have been waiting for the results of this investigation because they need to know what happened. They need to know if they can trust Doug Ford. They need to know why their premier is saying one thing in front of the cameras and another thing inside the shady back rooms.
I know we're all anxious and we'd like to hear the answer today because so much has gone on since then. But we just have to have faith in their ability to, and I do have faith in their ability to investigate and charge whatever they can.
Now, so far, the Premier's office hasn't responded to our request this morning for a comment, but in early May, Premier Doug Ford did say that his government was cooperating, giving anybody who asked for information what they needed. He also said that this issue was in the past and not something they were seeing showing up in polling. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Siobhan. We got more news in a moment, but first a look at the forecast. There's a live shot of the city. No games for the World Cup today. There's a bit of a break, but fans still hanging out, playing a little bit of soccer in this heat. And it feels like, Lindsay, the heat, like, you know, the really hot weather has returned.
Oh, it has, Nathan. In fact, it's going to be hot today, and then it's going to be hotter as we make our way into next week. It's odd seeing Nathan Phillips Square so quiet on a day like this. But yes, a little bit of a break from FIFA action. Temperatures are in the 20s across the board right now, and you're going to find it's a little bit warmer for lakeside communities today compared to the last several days. Right now at Toronto Pearson, 28 degrees feels more like 36, and we're on our way to an afternoon high that's going to be in the 30s, feeling closer to 40. Different wind direction today. Those winds out of the south, they're fairly light. They're not particularly strong right now. We are at a 9 on the UV index, which of course is very high. Don't forget the sunscreen as you're venturing out. Quiet on the satellite and radar, but see this activity to our north. That's our first sign that things are going to change into the day tomorrow with the risk of potentially severe thunderstorms in places. But today we expect to be dry, slight chance of a shower late afternoon or early evening. And look at the temperature, 31 for the high, humidex 39. We're going to take you through the forecast heading into the weekend coming up. For now, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Canada's hosting duties for the FIFA World Cup have officially come to an end.
Switzerland squared off with Colombia and Vancouver in the final match played on Canadian soil this tournament.
It's all over! Switzerland are going to the quarter-final of the World Cup!
What an ending. Switzerland beat Colombia 4-3 on penalty kicks in front of a full house at BC Place. The Swiss will now take on Argentina in the quarterfinals.
Red shirts racing back as fast as they can! Oh, my word!
Argentina survived a scare from Egypt to advance. The defending champs were trailing by 2 goals with just 11 minutes to go before scoring 3 goals before the end of stoppage time, including Lionel Messi's 8th of the tournament to secure a 3-2 victory. CTV's Andrew Johnson has more on the conclusion of the World Cup on Canadian soil.
Thousands strong, the Colombians marched to BC Place. They also filled the floor at FanFest with yellow and a true passion for the game.
I grew up learning it. I grew up seeing it in our household. It's such a big deal for us. It's our nation. It's our DNA.
But it was the Swiss who have called Vancouver home for 2 weeks after sending Canada south to play in the U.S., moving on to the quarterfinals. They are the final 2 nations to play a World Cup game in 2026 on Canadian turf.
It is scenes like this at Vancouver's FanFest people tell us they are going to miss when the tournament is all over. It has been an unforgettable few weeks to be a soccer fan here in Toronto and all over the country.
It's sad. I'm gonna miss it. I'm definitely gonna miss it. I wish I took more time off of work.
New polling shows more than 70% in Metro Vancouver feel hosting FIFA will benefit the province.
These are higher numbers than what we saw back in 2010 for the Winter Olympics.
But economists cast doubt on the long-term economic gain promised by politicians. Hotels have not been as full as expected, and in both host cities, some businesses have been unusually quiet.
That day traveler that we usually count on coming in from outside the city for a day's adventure in the downtown core along the waterfront, those people were definitely staying away.
The long-term economic windfall, if there is one, may not arrive for years. What we do know now, it's been a heck of a party, an expensive one. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
24 suspects, including 3 in Canada, have been arrested as part of a massive bust by law enforcement agencies around the world.
The suspects have ties to the notorious Bishnoi gang, which was declared a terrorist entity in Canada last year. As CTV's Adrian Goberto reports, other suspects remain on the run.
These are the faces of 24 suspects arrested across the globe with ties to 3 India-based transnational organized crime groups, each syndicate accused of leaving a deadly trail in their wake.
These violent acts include political and religious assassinations, shootings, murders, kidnappings.
Dubbed Operation Hardball, the collective police investigation spanned Canada, the United States, Europe, and Asia. Among those charged include gang leader Lawrence Bishnoi. Police in Los Angeles today allege that from a jail cell in India, Bishnoi ordered the assassination of Canadian Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was killed outside of a Gurdwara in Surrey, BC in June of 2023. Also charged in his death is Bishnoi's alleged lieutenant, Satinderjeet Singh. He remains wanted and on the run. Police say each of the crime syndicates would use high-profile killings to terrorize and extort Indo-Canadians and those living abroad.
The safety risks can't be overstated when you're dealing with criminal organizations that have this kind of sophistication and global reach.
Over the last 3 years, CTV News has visited the homes and businesses of South Asian Canadians across Canada that have been targeted by gunfire and extortion. Fearful for their lives, some Indo-Canadians began wearing bulletproof vests before leaving their home.
Are you wearing one right now?
Yes, I do.
Can we see it?
Yes.
In February 2024, CTV News spoke with an individual who claimed he'd carried out dozens of extortions for the Bishnoi gang.
How many targets have you hit? How many homes? How many businesses?
In Canada, like around, I think 30 or 35, 40.
The culmination of a 2-year investigation led in part by the RCMP.
Our work today makes our communities, cities, provinces, states, and countries much safer.
Though with gang members from multiple criminal organizations still at large, the investigation remains active and far from over.
3 of the suspects were arrested right here in Canada. Prosecutors believe 10 others are currently on the run in the United States, India, and Europe. Adrian Goberto, CTV News, Toronto.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the ceasefire agreement with Iran is over, following renewed military strikes by both sides.
To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
Trump indicated negotiators could continue to talk, but described that as likely a waste of time. This morning, Iran says it targeted U.S. military sites in Bahrain and Kuwait after U.S. forces struck 80 Iranian targets. The Americans said their strikes were in response to attacks on tankers in the Strait of Hormuz.
Prime Minister Mark Carney commented on the renewed strikes this morning at the NATO summit in Turkey. He described it as a fragile situation.
This is a situation where we had a ceasefire as part of the peace deal that had been reinforced by the U.S. president during the 6-day period of mourning for the late Ayatollah Khamenei. And during that period, Iran attacked multiple times. They would call targets, we would call infrastructure assets in Qatar and Saudi Arabia and threatened shipping again. That's irresponsible. It's not right.
And CTV's Rachel Ayala joins us live with more on the conclusion of the NATO summit in Turkey. Rachel, a lot happened there, and Canada had quite a few goals. Were they able to accomplish their goals?
Yeah, good afternoon, Nathan. So certainly the Prime Minister is coming away from the NATO summit trying to emphasize that all allied countries are on the same page when it comes to the need to increase defense spending. Really, his focus was on there being an agreement that the burden shift needs to happen. So moving away from a reliance on the Americans for their defense might and ensuring countries like Canada and Europe more broadly are carrying their weight. But of course, Nathan, that's going to come for this country alone at a very high price tag. Of course, we've seen over the last number of days a series of major announcements from the Prime Minister, including most recently submarines, recommitments to Operation Reassurance, where Canada is going to be contributing a lot more money than have been in the past to defence spending. And so the Prime Minister this morning making it clear that he will be providing a more detailed accounting of how that is impacting the country's finances in the fall budget, but also wanting to emphasize that as this country continues to spend more on defence, wants to ensure that it's building capacity and is actually being used effectively by the Canadian Armed Forces. But really broadly, his takeaway was Donald Trump was successful in pressuring allied countries to beef up their spending. Here's a clip from the Prime Minister a bit more on how he thinks Trump has accomplished that. Oh, sorry, we don't actually...
It's not just he's winning the argument, he's won the argument. Countries recognize that they need to take more responsibility, see the direct threats. Now, the question for NATO, and part of what we will discuss and part of the point I will make in the room with my 3.5 minutes of time, so which is about a quarter of the length of my normal answer, I know, so I apologize, is that those shifting burdens are going to be, in our view, most effectively done, obviously with greater capacity. We have to spend more, we have to build these capacities, that's what we're doing, but in ways that recognize the regions in which we operate.
And so the Prime Minister went on from there, Nathan, to say that one of the areas where he really sees Canada being able to play more of that role in building up capacity is in the Arctic, saying essentially his view was it's no longer a flank, but a potential future front.
Now, Carney's also heading to Saudi Arabia today. What can we expect from that leg of his trip?
Yeah, so the itinerary for that leg of his trip has just come out, so I can tell you that the Prime Minister will be meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And I think really for the Prime Minister, his focus is going to be on drumming up more investment and trying to strengthen the economic and business ties between Canada and Saudi Arabia. But certainly I know the traveling reporters are going to be putting a number of questions to the Prime Minister around the issue of human rights. This has really been a trend we've seen with the Prime Minister trying to strengthen diplomatic relations with countries that his predecessor, Justin Trudeau, had kind of frankly iced out over human rights disagreements. And really the Prime Minister's point now is he is focused on areas where they have similarities and can work together, and less so spending his time abroad lecturing, hectoring other countries on their behaviors. But I think there'll be a pressure on the Prime Minister to at least raise some of the human rights concerns and ensure that Canadians' values and not just economic interests are expressed.
Rachel Aiello in Ottawa, thank you.
Thanks.
At a sit-down with the NATO Secretary General, Donald Trump also brought up another major point of contention between the U.S. and the military alliance.
I'm going to relate my problems. Greenland is a big problem for us.
And on Greenland, you and I made a deal in Davos. I will make sure that that deal is step by step being implemented.
Trump was expressing renewed frustration after fierce opposition to the idea of a U.S. takeover of the Arctic territory. The president claimed the move was necessary for national security purposes, but Greenland is considered part of Denmark and NATO territory, so comments threatening a possible unilateral move weren't welcomed by Danish leaders and other allies.
Greenland is, of course, not for sale. We hope that all, including all allies, will respect the Greenlandic people's right for self-determination. And we are a sovereign state, and we need everybody to respect our territorial integrity and our sovereignty.
Mette Frederiksen said Denmark is ready to defend every inch of NATO, including its own territory in the event of an attack. And the country would rely on NATO allies to honor their commitment to defend each other.
The federal government has told the Trump administration that a new law meant to combat forced labor in supply chains should protect Canadians from new tariffs. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer announced in March that his office was launching trade investigations into 60 countries, including Canada. He said Canada, Mexico, and the U.K. should be hit with additional 10% tariffs because they are not doing enough to enforce bans on forced labor. In a letter to Greer's office, Ottawa says there is no no basis for additional tariffs on Canadian goods, as it's taking action in response to the Trump administration's concerns.
One element of this that the U.S. government has a point on is that Canada has a fairly well-established pattern in forced labor, in anti-corruption, in sanctions policy, of having very strong prohibitions, but then not having the funding or sophistication to adequately enforce those prohibitions. And so that ends up leaving gaps that need to be filled.
But international trade lawyer Robert Glasgow called tariff threats the wrong way for the U.S. to achieve its goals. He says it'll hurt the American economy and alienate potential allies in the fight against forced labor.
Hundreds of soldiers and military students march in Paris as they prepare for Bastille Day next week. Today was the first day of rehearsals for the parade along the Champs-Élysées. Now, this year's ceremonies will feature troops from Ukraine and the 35 countries from the Coalition of the Willing, which includes Canada. That's the initiative set up by France and the UK to help guarantee peace in Ukraine after Russia's invasion comes to an end. Bastille Day is July 14th, celebrating a key uprising in the French Revolution.
Well, it's another hot one out there today. Many communities are going to feel like 40 this afternoon once you consider the humidity, and this mugginess could help fuel some thunderstorms for tomorrow. Slight chance of a passing shower late this afternoon and evening, but it's tomorrow that this frontal system moves through, and with it, we could get heavy downpours, strong winds, and even hail in some communities. This is a look at what the next few days look like in parts of cottage country. Summer is underway, and yes, just a reminder that with that threat of active weather tomorrow, you'll need to have a plan to get off the beach or get off the lake quickly. Weekend is looking good, though. We're going to take you through that weekend forecast after this break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Well, it is a gorgeous looking day, but take note, nature cranking up the heat. There's also humidity along with it, maybe even some unsettled weather.
Yeah, you definitely have to bear that in mind and maybe find ways to beat the heat.
For sure. Today is a day for that, certainly. Early next week, it looks like we're going to get into another stretch of hot weather. Before that happens, some thunderstorms could cool us down a little bit for the end of this week, but the heat and humidity that we have out there right now could potentially help fuel those storms. So everything is connected. Lots to talk about for the next couple of days here. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. And of course, we've seen some severe weather recently. Of course, we had those storms on Canada Day. And on July 3rd, there was a storm that moved through the Bayfield area. And check out this damage. This specifically is at the Rainbow Valley RV Camp Yard. Quite a bit of damage, so some assessment will be done to determine whether or not a tornado touched down. But based on some early assessments of the debris and the way that it's kind of twisted around, it looks as though that may have been the case here. So simply a reminder that with severe weather season now very much here, the threat of tornadoes is also here in southern Ontario. But today it's about the heat and the humidity. So a reminder that there are things you can do to help keep yourself cool on a day like this. Drink plenty of water, wear loose, light clothing, and avoid the sun and the heat if you can. Find a cool place to go if you don't have access to air conditioning where you are. Perhaps a local library or a mall could be a good place to go. And you don't want to leave any people or pets inside parked vehicles, especially with it being 28 degrees right now, feeling like 36, and we still have several hours of daytime heating to go. This is a look at the almanac. Record high for this day, just like yesterday, was set back in the year 1988. Bit of a heat wave that happened. We climbed all the way to 37 degrees on July 8th that year. Not going to be quite that hot today. We are going to be warm overnight tonight. 20 degrees for a low, bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Just about everyone a couple of degrees warmer than normal. Tomorrow, cooler in the sense that we're back in the upper 20s as opposed to low 30s. But yes, we do have a chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorms. It's a slightly lower threat around the city of Toronto proper, but areas away from the lake could be in for some severe weather tomorrow. And again, what makes the storm severe? Heavy downpours, very strong, potentially damaging winds, and maybe even some small hail possible with the line that's expected to roll through tomorrow. So just a heads up, and it's not an all-day thing. Often the stronger thunderstorms arrive quickly and then depart quickly as well. So this is what we're watching. Again, a frontal system, warm front and cold front could impact us here in the lower part of the Great Lakes. And timing-wise, this is how it all looks to play out. So slight chance of a shower late this afternoon or early evening. Should be dry for most. There's midday tomorrow. So around lunchtime, we get into some showers, heavier bands or perhaps embedded thunderstorms around Georgian Bay. That's mid-afternoon. So heads up Toronto over toward Hamilton, London, and then, of course, into Niagara region, perhaps toward Prince Edward County, Kingston, Ottawa, as we make our way into the evening hours. Then on Friday, there's the chance of some leftover showers, but we are going to dry up. We're going to clear out, and that makes way for a nice and sunny weekend with seasonal warmth, temperatures in the upper 20s, but we are back in the 30s for Monday and Tuesday of next week. That's the weather for now. Nathan, sending it over to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. The Blue Jays will be looking for the series win this afternoon after snapping a 3-game losing streak against the San Francisco Giants last night.
You get something to hit. Is the ballpark going to hold it? It is gone.
The Jays took an early lead with a 3-run blast in the second inning, and they went on to win the game 9-3. Dylan Cease is set to start for Toronto in the rubber match with first pitch set for 3:45 in San Francisco.
The Tempo will look to snap a 2-game losing skid when they host the Golden State Valkyries tonight.
Mabry with the steal. Monty Mabry, look out, way out, got it!
The team lost 89-76 to the Dallas Wings Sunday. Tip-off for tonight's game is set for 7 p.m. at Coca-Cola Coliseum.
Meanwhile, Marina Mabry has been selected as a reserve for the upcoming WNBA All-Star Game in Chicago. The Tempo guard is averaging more than 20 points a game this season and matched the WNBA record with 53 points in a game last month. It's the first time the 29-year-old has been named an All-Star and the first All-Star selection in the Tempo's short history.
Tickets for the Ontario Honda Dealers Indy in Markham are on sale today. Fans can purchase single-day tickets for the inaugural event, which is happening from August 14th to the 16th. Organizers say there are 4 grandstand locations to choose from, along with general admission passes. There are also ticket options being offered by GO Transit, which include admission to the race, along with round-trip train tickets to Unionville GO Station. The race was moved from Toronto to Markham for the 2026 season as part of a 5-year deal. Still to come on CTV News at noon, researchers at Princess Margaret Cancer Centre are trying to determine whether a blood test can detect tiny amounts of cancer after patients have been treated. We'll have those details when we come back.
Researchers at Princess Margaret Cancer Centre are trying to determine whether a blood test can detect tiny amounts of cancer after patients have been treated. The lead investigator says smaller studies have indicated that cancer DNA can show up in blood in amounts too small to be identified by CT scans. If the test is positive, patients could get additional experimental treatments to try and prevent the cancer from returning. If the test is negative, it could indicate the patient is fully cancer-free. Researchers say more study is needed at this stage.
The test is still not standard of care because the sensitivity of the test is really important. And just because it's negative may be a false negative. So it's really important for us to study this and to be following these patients very closely to understand if they are truly free from cancer, if they're negative on this test, or if they are positive on this test, whether ultimately the cancer will show up and whether we can act on it to reduce the chance of the cancer from coming back.
The trial also aims to find out if the effectiveness of the blood test varies between different types of cancer. An annual Halloween fundraiser run by an Ottawa couple in support of that city's children's hospital is at risk of shutting down.
As CTV's Katie Griffin reports, it's all the result of a bylaw complaint.
In there, we have the motorcycle guy.
When it comes to Halloween, this is 6-year-old Jackson's favorite place to be.
I help them out a lot.
But this spooktacular setup, a haunted house and structure made to look like a castle, might have to be torn down.
I was sad.
It's a shame, but I mean, it is what it is. We've been trying to see what we can do to continue, without having to take everything apart.
Every October for 26 years, the Albert family has transformed their property on Pintail Terrace into a Halloween wonderland with lineups around the block. But after a complaint in May, a bylaw investigation found several accessory structures associated with the display don't comply with the zoning bylaw and would have to be removed.
I know eventually we'll have to stop because we're getting on with age and it's taking a lot. But I would like it on my own terms, not because somebody decided.
It takes the family and a handful of volunteers 2 months to get it ready.
I don't think it's an eyesore at all.
The family collects donations and estimates it's raised $100,000 for CHEO.
Many people come through saying, thank you, my son goes to CHEO on a regular basis. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting old, but it makes me choke up.
We're servicing the largest patient population that we ever have before. So when you take away a community event, it really does take away the impact that we can have on the programs and services that we offer at CHEO.
The area councillor committed to finding a solution.
I got in touch with the mayor's office and in touch with our chief of bylaw. There seems to be a real willingness, understanding how important this is to our community, to work through this, to find a way that they can, sort of continue.
The Alberts hoping for that too.
That's been the most important thing that I loved. Just to see the looks on the children's faces are priceless, priceless.
Katie Griffin, CTV News.
Still to come, horror film Obsession has set a box office record. We'll have those details when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Financial markets have been impacted by the renewed escalation between the U.S. and Iran. The S&P 500, Dow Jones, and NASDAQ are all in the red after U.S. President Donald Trump said the agreement to pause fighting was over, although negotiations had not entirely stopped. The price for a barrel of crude, meanwhile, surged 8% to just over $80 U.S. before dropping slightly. Analysts point to ongoing concerns oil shipments will once again be unable to pass through the Strait of Hormuz.
Air Canada has named its next chief executive.
It is an honor to have been chosen to lead this major carrier, to continue implementing its growth strategy and to pave the way for an even brighter future.
Anko van der Werf is currently in charge of Scandinavian Airlines, but he will be taking over the top job at Canada's largest airline by the end of January 2027. As a native of the Netherlands, Air Canada says he can speak and communicate in several languages, including French. Outgoing CEO Michael Rousseau announced his retirement after coming under fire for failing to deliver a condolence message in French that followed the Air Canada Express collision in New York back in March that claimed the lives of 2 pilots, including one from Quebec. Beef prices are on the rise again, which could have people thinking twice before planning their backyard barbecue menu.
However, as CTV's Alessia Fieldberg reports, some relief could be on the way soon.
Ribs, brisket, and burgers are popular at Calgary Stampede, but can come with a hefty price tag, and not just because it's from the Midway, but also due to the rising cost of the main ingredient.
This was $55, so, I mean, everything costs more on the grounds, but it's worth it for once a year at Stampede. Great experience. Gotta love Alberta beef.
Beef prices continue to soar. In May, they were up more than 2% from the previous month. That's 13% higher than last year at this time, and 63% higher than 5 years ago, according to Statistics Canada. Despite the beefy cost, Canadians aren't cutting it off the menu.
Last year, the Canadians consumed slightly more beef than they had in the year before, even though prices were up. we're eating more ground beef and fewer strip loins.
The high prices come from that increased demand while supply has shrunk. Many ranchers chose not to keep as many cattle during recent drought years, which made feed expensive on top of other rising costs.
We've experienced actually on my operation 4 years of drought. People around that actually for the last 3 years, each year they've knocked in. Some of them, you know, from 1,000 cows knocked off 200 cows. In the following year, still drought, so another 200 cows went out of production.
That's now starting to turn around, with Canadian herds growing for the first time in years. But it's a slow process and will take a while to feel the impact.
We're a little ways out from sustained price relief at the grocery store, but definitely we are moving in the right direction for consumers.
Until then, everyone has to fork out a bit more for their beef.
Raise of about 10% in costs, so of course prices have to follow. There's no way that anybody's going to make no money doing what we do, right? Everybody wants the Alberta beef. Everybody wants to keep eating good quality food.
Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News.
Horror film Obsession is now the highest grossing movie with a budget under $1 million US. The movie's made more than $400 million at the global box office to become the 10th horror film in history to pass that mark. Obsession made its debut at the Toronto International Film Festival last September before being released widely in May.
The nominations are out for this year's Primetime Emmy Awards, celebrating excellence in the television industry. The Pit led all shows with 25 nominations, including nods for Toronto's Brittany Allen and Canadian creator R. Scott Gemmell. Hacks topped the comedy category with 24 noms for its final season. This year's Emmys will be hosted by Law & Order SVU star Mariska Hargitay.
Coming up, the success of Heated Rivalry continues to pay off for its stars. We'll have more on the boost the series has given to a Mississauga actor when we come back. This is a live look from outside the Ontario Coroner's Office, where police have gathered ahead of the arrival of the body of 27-year-old Tyrone Magbetang. He's the police constable recruit who was killed in a crash while traveling to the Ontario Police College yesterday. His body is expected to arrive at the coroner's office from London around 1 this afternoon. Canadian actor Robbie GK is having what they call a moment. The co-star of Heated Rivalry recently attended Bell Media's Upfront.
And that's when this network presents the shows for the upcoming season, and when the actor spoke to CTV's Andrea Casey, he had more than one project to talk about.
Robbie GK was a hit with fans lined up to get his autograph or a photo at the Bell Media Upfront last month.
It's pretty otherworldly for me to be here today. You know, a year ago, I don't think I could have ever imagined being here and, you know, coming off the coattails of Heated Rivalry and all the excitement here.
Thanks to the worldwide success of Heated Rivalry, millions of people around the world know him as Christopher Kip Grady, the on-screen smoothie shop barista and love interest of hockey player Scott Hunter, played by Francois Arouet. It's a huge leap from where he was just 12 months ago.
A year ago, I was working actually just downtown at doing sales at a building at a company, and I was biking in 2 times a week in the wintertime to do that. So my life is completely different now. But like a year ago, yeah, you know, this was another Canadian kind of a smaller thing, and at the time, nobody knew what it was going to be.
Now everyone knows what Heated Rivalry is. Season 2 is currently in production. And you get to do Season 2?
We'll see.
Not to worry, the Port Credit native has a new project on the small screen, which may be familiar to some viewers.
I'm the program director, Jerry Aldini.
Meatballs was the 1979 Canadian film starring Bill Murray as head camp counselor Tripper Harrison. Now the film has been turned into a new TV series coming to Crave.
Well, it's going to be a reimagined, but, you know, have some things from the past that everyone loves, but kind of modernize of the classic Canadian film. And, you know, I went to camp myself, and that was such a formative years for me, so I'm excited to play to that and get to spend summer at camp.
Murray won't be back. GK is stepping into his shoes and can now relive his childhood at Camp Pinecrest in Muskoka, this time as the head camp counselor. Meatballs is part of the 2026-27 lineup for Bell Media. CTV is a division of Bell Media. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Well, there's no rivalry, but the conditions are heated.
Ooh, I like it. I know.
Well done.
Very good. Yeah, let's just
You didn't
pass
know where I was
along.
going,
That was
did you?
perfect.
Yeah, we'll just take it from there. It is very heated out there today. Let's take one more look at what you need to know as far as the temperatures for the rest of the day, including the evening, which it's still going to be hot. Temperature near 30 degrees at 7 p.m. Just a few clouds tonight. Slight chance of a shower late this afternoon or early evening, but the more active weather looks to come for tomorrow with passing showers, risk of thunderstorms. They could be severe in nature. All this heat and humidity that we're experiencing today could help fuel a few storms. So that happens tomorrow. Friday, chance of leftover showers, but look at the weekend. Wall-to-wall sunshine, temperatures in the upper 20s. That's where we expect them to be this time of year. And it's not oppressively humid over the weekend. Things change, though, early next week when it's going to feel much like today, feeling like 40 once again by certainly by Tuesday, maybe Monday as well. So the heat is on. But like you said, Nathan, no rivalry. We're just enjoying these conditions. Just stay safe out there.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that is it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.